But from a reflection perspective, 30 years of experience, knowing what you know, you said you didn't really have many lows, but would you have done anything differently?
To anybody, whether you're an executive or whether you're entrepreneurial, get on stage.
Hi, and welcome to Accelerating Your Wealth with your host, myself, Rebecca Robertson. I'm an independent financial advisor and wealth coach. I'm the director of Evolution Financial Planning, who is also our sponsor for today's show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share and review this episode. With your help, we'll reach more people who can benefit from the show. If you're somebody that is not sure what to do with their finances, maybe you're working and you're not sure what to do with the bonuses you've got at work, or maybe you started a business and you've got profits and you're not sure what you should be doing to enable you to A, pay yourself more, or B, potentially retire earlier. Maybe you're somebody that's thinking about, do I overpay on the mortgage? You've received some inheritance. You've got lots of questions around your finances and what to do next. Then check out Evolution Financial Planning, who are regulated independent financial advisors and financial planners that can help you make some of those big decisions in life. So let's carry on the conversation on part 2. And I want to dig a little bit. We've talked about women's leadership and the coaching that you do and you deliver to corporates. And we talked about some of those people pleasers and fear and how that wraps up in our worthiness. I want to go back again a little bit and talk a little bit about some of this sort of, I feel like you're a very resilient person. And there's your sort of background comes from those 1980s kind of money mindset.
Watching Dynasty.
Yeah.
I am Alexis.
But there's a much different mentality to these days. And I don't want to say that there's a wrong or a right.
No.
But there's certainly, I think about getting stuff done and not making a fuss. And I just want to talk a little bit about that initial training that you had and how that's now reflected in some of the decisions and the way you're working now. So you mentioned when we were chatting before the show, the chicken soup. And I forget the gentleman's the name.
That sounds so funny. Just we were talking about chicken soup.
That sounds completely out of context.
We were talking about Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote, both American chaps. I think Jack Canfield's the better known of the two in the UK, but they both did the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which before J.K. Rowling, they were the best-selling authors on the planet because Chicken Soup did so well as a series of books. And then, like we say, we had Harry Potter, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
But those two were my mentors starting out in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was in that sort of flux of what do I actually want to do off the back of working with Prince. So I found them. I can't even remember how I ended up in Florida at a conference with these guys.
Was this before or after Tony?
This was actually after Tony.
Okay.
So
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins. Yeah. Yes. Who's amazing. So they just blew me away because I love they sang my tune, because in the north of England, where I'm from, Yorkshire, if you talk like I did, they'd look at you sideways and go, "What's wrong with you?" And so I thought, I need my people. Where are my people? And they were my people. The people in the room plus the people on the stage were singing my song, which is limitless, go for the moon, write a best-selling book, be on stage, be on television, have a ball, change the world, create a legacy. I was like, exactly. That's exactly what I want to do. So that's what the mentality came from. And then they gave you the structure of how to do it, how to write a book, how to do this, how to do that. And I loved it. And I went back several hundred times and had a blast and learned an incredible amount. Now, I had to then bring that all home. And same when I saw Tony Robbins live and I did the firewalk and all that and the rah-rah, you have to tone it down for the UK, because if I went off at that level, they would think I was completely mental. So I have to tone it down for the UK. It's not palatable otherwise. So we're a little bit more reserved, obviously, than our American cousins. And so my version of it, although on stage back in the day, I would be jumping up and down and everyone dancing and the whole bit. I would let loose on stage. I'm not so much like that anymore, but I used to be. And that was my signature stuff. And
you don't do events anymore?
I do events, but I don't jump up and down on stage anymore.
Okay. Is that because you're more on the corporate side?
Yes, and also because I'm a little bit older, Rebecca. I'm not as bouncy as I used to be. But, still am that person deep inside. And so to me, it feels right. It's joyous. That's how we should all be conducting business, on a joyous level, and being authentic and being ourselves and being passionate, and all of that coming out in your business, in your work.
About someone looking at you like you're mad. Like sometimes when I speak to people that aren't in that entrepreneurial kind of space, and I say what I do, and they just look at me blankly as if to say, what are you? And then you'll meet somebody who's a bit more, on that kind of wavelength. And they'll be like, wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Good for you.
Yes, and absolutely right. I agree. That's exactly what happens. And we recognize each other, don't we?
Yeah.
When we see a fellow, like, yes, hello, you're there.
You got it.
Good to see you. I think that's how it all sort of started, and really sort of grew from there. And I think when you're developing your business, you do come across different opportunities. I went for everything. I went for the television. I went for radio. They started, as the media do, they start to label you something. So I was the happiness guru. And so I was on BBC Radio all the time, did every single BBC radio station you could possibly imagine. So fun, really good fun, but also television as well. So they'd come in and ask me all sorts of questions about how, love the version that the UK are as, so what is happiness and how do you do it, and I would tell them and they go, I don't kind of believe you. But anyway, so it was really interesting. And then, of course, I did a book and all that. And so it sort of develops. And then you see, well, what's next? That's the obvious thing. And what's next? And for me, leadership development, working with Olympians, which is exceptional, because working and business leaders, because you have a different mindset. You're working with someone who has a whole different way of thinking, which is so good. And after working with Prince, I was looking for that again. I was looking for that mindset of everything is possible. Just stand back and watch me. So I work with a lot of performers, a lot of musicians, a lot of people who are on stage, literally. So you get the same kind of gung-ho, this is who I am and let me show everybody what I can do. And I would be there in the background helping them with whatever little bits and pieces needed help with. That work I adore. Any kind of performance work I absolutely love. So it very much is in the same realm as leadership development. You're on stage. This is a performance. Everything we do in front of people is a performance. That's how they should look at it. You're going into a meeting. Perform. It doesn't have to be inauthentic. You're just performing at another level. We all have an inner performer. Who is she? What does she look like? What does she say? What doesn't she say? What does she wear? How does she express herself? What is her brand? And I get people to think in those terms. And then you could switch it off. When you want to go home, switch her off. Step out of her shoes. Put your jammies on. Snuggle up with a puppy. And do your thing. But then you switch it back on. And performance has to be a switch off and a switch on. And that's the problem that I found a lot of performers in the world today or back in the day didn't know how to switch off. And so they come off stage with all this adulation and all the adrenaline that's going through their body, and they don't know how to switch off, and that's when they get into trouble.
So how can women be heard more?
One of the issues that women have in those sort of moments when it counts is a huge amount of self-doubt. What's actually running through their head as dialogue is mostly, if I say this, I'm going to sound stupid. And then that overthinking and the self-doubt just comes in, and we stay quiet and we hide. So they're in a meeting, and I've heard this a million times. They're in a meeting and they're like, don't pick me, don't ask me, don't come near me. It's the opposite to what we should be doing, obviously. You need to be more visible. You need to own your visibility. You need to be able to articulate with purpose. You need to own your leadership brand. You need to make quick decisions, and you need to know how to differentiate yourself from other people. Those are my 5 keys. So if you're working on those different 5 keys, if anybody's listening now and you're looking at how well do I articulate myself, score yourself out of 10. The same with owning your visibility. How intentional are you with being visible? How much do you have a leadership brand, whether you work for someone else or don't? What's your brand? How good are you at that? What are people saying about you when you leave the room? And what do you want them to say about you? Make it your narrative, not theirs. And then how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? And then how do you make quick decisions? And the importance about making quick decisions is to show that you are confident, because if you dilly-dally or you procrastinate, people see that hesitation as a weakness. It's a massive deal. It's a quiet killer, is hesitation and procrastination. So if you can do all those things, mark yourself now out of 10 and then see how can I increase that by 1 or 2 scores. You'll see a vast difference immediately with when you go back in that room with whoever you're talking to and how you approach things. Just articulate better, have a brand that you're confident with, differentiate yourself and act quickly, talk sensibly and solidly.
Love that. Great advice. Very solid advice as well. Practical that you can go away and reflect on.
Yeah.
So just taking you sort of a little bit on a different sort of slant slightly, and I've got a feeling I know how you're going to answering this question, but I want to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Being that you're an entrepreneur, business person yourself, what would you have done differently? Now, I imagine being that you're like this positive person and, you know, everything happens for a reason kind of mentality, then you may turn around and say, nothing, it's all supposed to be where it's meant to be.
No, not really.
But from a reflection perspective, 30 years of experience, knowing what you know, you said you didn't really have many lows, but would you have done anything differently?
Yeah. I think what I would have done differently was stop looking for shiny, bright objects. Like a magpie.
Yes.
Because I think that's it. Once you're doing something, you think, oh, what next? Like I say, what's next? And you can get completely distracted. And that's an entrepreneurial curse, is to look for the shiny object and to move away from what's actually working. So I've become better at it, but still there are times where I go, ooh, that looks fun, and off I go. And to bring myself back to earth, because what actually does work entrepreneurially is to obviously have a brand that's strong enough, has legs, as I say, but also speaking. Speaking is the strongest thing you can do as an entrepreneur. You've got to have a talk. You've got to be out there visible. You've got to have a point of view. Like I say, you've got to differentiate from yourself from other people. And, you know, what is your thought leadership about this? You've got to be visible. You've got to have a point of view and be out there as much as you can, omnipresent if possible. That is how those are the things that never fail to work. Any other trick that they're telling you is a trend or whatever, you know, the TikToks can come and go, to be honest with you. But there's nothing like people seeing you on stage in person.
Yeah.
Nothing beats that. I've had stage rushes before. Where people just rush up to you to talk to you, whatever it is. And that's insane. But that shows you how powerful speaking is. So to anybody, whether you're an executive or whether you're entrepreneurial, get on stage. Get on stage. Now, I do have an issue with TEDx, though.
Okay, go for it.
I do. Because I do speaker training too.
Yeah.
So it comes with the whole performance part that I do. But I don't like formulaic massively. TED Talks are, by definition, the 19 minutes and the this, that, and the other. And I've seen some really good ones. Yours is incredible.
Oh, thank you.
No, yours is fantastic.
Oh, really?
But
I take that as a real compliment.
No,
thank you.
It is good. But I don't think everybody should go for it.
No.
Because I think you do end up down a certain way. And that's great. It's like when you go to, what did they used to, the speaker's corner or whatever they used to do.
Yeah.
It's fine to go out there and try it, absolutely. But what I believe people should try and do is get their own sort of signature talk going that is something you can pick up and run with in different areas, and rather than something that's sort of impactfully of a one-off kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. But I do make you right, because you talk about shiny objects, and I think TEDx can play a part in that, some of that shiny objects, because it's almost like you said, like with the chicken soup guys.
Yes.
The book, not the actual food produce, is the they give you a list of things you got to do. You've got to have a podcast, you've got to do a TEDx talk, you've got to have a book, you've got to have a signature talk, you've got to have a TikTok, a YouTube. The list is endless, and there's a lot of people out there selling, quite frankly, sort of cookie cutter approaches to business.
I agree.
And we've seen many of them come and go. And like myself, at one point, I had my regulated business, and then I also had under my own name, I had a limited company, and I closed that limited company a few years ago. And I spent about 4 years developing online courses, which were for business owners and sort of standard courses. I also did a mastermind in there, and I spent a lot of time and effort developing all of this. And what was paying for it was my regulated business.
Right.
And I got to the point where I said, what am I doing?
What are you doing?
What am I doing? Like, yes, it's raising my profile because I'm doing socials, but it's actually, I'm not making enough profit to warrant this amount of time from the amount of time I'm spending each week, compared to if I just stopped doing that and put a fraction of it in terms of marketing effort, continued with that, but it sort of just was more streamlined to my regulated financial services business. What would that look like? And it was obviously a very good decision to make, not only from but from a self-worth and time perspective, because then not necessarily from a not failed in one respect because I closed that business, but I felt energetically it wasn't serving me, and not necessarily spiritually speaking, but energetically speaking, I was sort of saying, what is this telling me? And I feel like we're almost taught on the online space, particularly, that if it's not working, you're doing it right. It's not working, it's because you're not doing it right.
Okay.
And you're almost sort of, you've got to work harder and do more lives and do more videos and do more of the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
And you could do that for years. And actually, so I got to the point where I realised it didn't matter what I did. It just wasn't going to work. It wasn't what I was meant to be doing.
Right.
I was meant to be focusing on that regulated business, and I'm really glad I did. I closed that limited company, and all honesty, I stopped doing everything for probably about 2 years. I stopped my podcast. I didn't rewrite my book. I didn't put it into audio. I didn't create any other accounts. I didn't sell any other products. I literally just did my regulated business, and I almost hid for a couple of years, really. But I was lucky that I had, quite a few years behind me, a good reputation, testimonials, clients, referrals, Google, SEO. I had all that foundations down that I could just not do very much. Menopause hit.
Yep. Hurrah.
Absolutely decimated me emotionally, physically, and everything else. And I was so glad that I wasn't juggling lots and lots of plates.
Yes.
And then once I came out the other side of it, I was like, I'm ready for more now. Like, Becky's back. And I started, this was September last year, and that's when I started gearing up to re-release this and start this podcast.
Amazing.
And focus on the things that I enjoy doing. So I don't need to do these things, but I recognise from my skill set and my makeup that stuck in my four walls in my little Zoom office wasn't really me. It was part of me, but it's not the whole picture of me.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's what I realised, that I can go and speak on stage, I can go and talk to people in a room, I can do workshops, I can do talks, and I enjoy doing them. But as and when they organically come up, that's when I'll go and do it. But I'm not going to be out there constantly fishing, constantly networking, constantly looking for things, because for me it was actually creating the wrong kind of energy, and it was not not an internal desperation. I think desperation is the wrong word, but it was almost like the drive energetically was almost like a push or pull. I don't know if that makes sense, like in the way I'm describing that. Whereas now it's I'll get messages on LinkedIn and be like, can you come and talk on this summit, or and I don't actually have to go looking for it. It sort of energetically comes to me. So I'm just sort of reflecting back on everything you've just talked about, and I can completely agree. So I think for people, it's really important that they focus on what lights them up. So if that's not speaking on stage, then find out what is right for you. Because I know there's members of my team, for example, that would never be able to do that. They don't even, I'm managing to get them to come on my podcast in a couple of weeks.
You just need a little bit of coaching.
Is that
everybody's yeah.
I don't know if my husband
fear.
is. My husband is highly introverted. He's an IT director. He highly introverted. That's how I would describe it. And he can speak in front of people, but he absolutely hates it. Like he doesn't, there's not one part of it that he enjoys. From an ego perspective, from a delivery perspective, and it's not even having to imagine them naked. It's just
I do not train people to do that, by the way.
to get naked.
I do not do that.
No. I just can't see him ever enjoying that. Quick one before we get back to it. If these conversations are landing for you, we've made something to help you go deeper. It's a short quiz. You answer a few questions and it tells you where to focus, then builds you a playlist of every relevant episode so you're not hunting through the whole back catalogue. Investing, divorce, business, there are 9 areas to land in. The link's below.
It's not for everyone. I mean, some of us enjoy things differently anyway in all different walks of life. I happen to love being on stage, always have. In fact, if I'm watching another speaker on stage, I'm like, hurry up and get off. I want to be on that stage. I don't know what that is. But that's that inner performer in me. And
did you do drama at school?
A little bit. Oh, it was Shakespeare. So yeah, okay. I love Shakespeare. Still do. But with all of that, I think that find what it works, but nothing is as powerful as speaking. Just everyone to bear that in mind. There isn't really that I've seen yet that is as powerful as speaking. So training can help, coaching can help. It is fear-based. People have said it, haven't they? They fear public speaking more than death. So that tells you where we all are with it, unless you're insane like me. But I think that if there is something as powerful that you can do, and all that we're talking about, we have to be visible and out there in our industry.
But it might not be standing on stage in front of 200 people, at your corporate, annual conference.
Yeah.
It might be your monthly team meeting, and you've got a team of 20, and they've invited a few extras in, and you've got, and it's how you show up.
It is how you show up. It's who you choose to be in that moment. Who am I being? Am I being this person who's holding myself back, or am I actually, because you don't get to where you are in the world with being a thickie, do you? I mean, you have got talent, you have got experience, you've got things that people are paying you money to show up every day and do. So that's all that in there. So how do you express that outwardly? How do you articulate? It's articulation. It just takes a bit of practice. It takes a bit of preparation. But people get wound up in the fear. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. That's the conversation going on in their heads instead of how can I make this sound better? How can I put forward my point of view in a way that people would understand and be inspired by. The actual performance level needs to up. You need to up the game. How am I showing up? Is it good enough for me? Is it getting me where I want to be? If it's not up the game, have a higher standard for yourself, because you're capable of doing it. You're never, ever going to progress in life if you keep stagnant and say, well, no, it's just not for me. I don't like doing it. Well, there we are. End of story. Bye-bye. Unless you go, well, if you want to get there, that's the road forward. You have to put yourself out there. They call it the comfort zone, don't they?
Yeah.
Get out of your comfort zone, because that's where your dreams are. They're not in the comfort zone. And the whole point is it's supposed to be uncomfortable, because you don't grow without pain.
Yeah. So talking a little bit more about pain and personally speaking, and around your finances, maybe not. You became a single parent when your son was 5.
Yes, I did.
Not something you obviously envisaged or planned.
Not at all.
How did that financially affect you? Like, is there any reflections around that you think that was you set up for that? Do you think?
Well, my husband died over a period of 5 years. Gosh. It was the classic cancer diagnosis, 5 years gone.
For when when your baby was born, pretty much.
8 months old. My son was 8 months old when he was diagnosed with cancer. And it wasn't an easy cancer in the sense that it was difficult to find out where it all was. And it was 5 years of chemo, and then it went quiet, and then it came back again. And, that's the end of that. So it was over a period of 5 years. So we did have that luxury, if you will, of discussing finances. Not everybody has that when they lose their partner. Some can go overnight in the second. I had the luxury of having discussions with my husband about finances before he passed. So it was all set and sorted. So everything was fine. So there wasn't any massive gap or bridge for me to cross. It was all already organized. But in terms of what that did in I suppose, because I had a friend who also lost her husband at the same time, very, very similar circumstances, and her situation was completely different. He didn't. He was so busy, unfortunately, being afraid and worrying and obviously devastated that they never had those conversations. I was lucky my husband was incredibly with it in the sense of wanted to protect me and just was determined to make sure that happened. And so I was very fortunate. And so there wasn't any massive, big hoo-ha. But unfortunately for my friend, there was that we didn't know passwords. She didn't know where certain money was or how to get hold of it or what pensions he had or, all of that. So she had a very, very, very different experience to me. Poor thing, really, really difficult. So I say to my friends and I say to people who I meet, if that subject ever comes up, it's be financially literate. Have that conversation with your partner, no matter where you're at in this stage, because you never know what's going to happen. Anytime we can be struck down. So have that conversation, get savvy about what's going on with the money, what's possible, what insurances there are, what pensions there are. So, that's your area. But that's the conversation I always say, because I was lucky.
Yeah. And I'm glad, I'm sorry for your friend, but I'm glad you were lucky at the same time. That not enough is financially is talked about, that British thing that you were mentioning before, where we just don't talk about it. And there's so much sorrow and, worry and all of that.
It's very stressful.
But I find that even with when my dog needed to be put to sleep, I've had to put my horse to sleep previously to that, which was heartbreaking. So then when my old dog, the horse was young, but when my old dog then needed to be put to sleep, and I'd mentally prepared myself for quite a few months, then when I approached it to the family that it was time, it was that they couldn't handle it as well. Because it was quite news to them, or it was fresher to them. Whereas I think, and I talk about death and taxes all the time. So there was, I think, because of the previous bereavement with my horse, I was, I think, able to tackle it a little bit more differently. But grief obviously affects everyone. So there's such a big range. Just moving that on, then you became the breadwinner. You were the earner. Before that, what was the sort of makeup financially? I suppose with your chance of going back to work when you had diagnosed your baby was such a young age.
I was mostly then, with my son being young, I was working a lot from home anyway in those days. So that was fine. But my husband used to joke that everything that he has is ours and everything that I have is none of his business. So that's pretty much how we did it. He said, you crack on, I'll take care of everything. And whatever we make extra with what you're doing, great. So that's pretty much how it was. So when I ended up being the only breadwinner, I was already full into business anyway. It was already ticking over and things were happening. So there wasn't any sort of a stop and start. It never actually stopped, to be honest, even when I was very, very pregnant. And then when my son was born, there wasn't much of a stop. So it kept
was that intentional?
Going. Yeah, very intentional.
You wanted to continue working.
Yeah. I always wanted a role, a vocation in life I was able to do that. I was able to be very flexible with my working hours. I'm terrible at being employed. Probably the worst employee ever because I hated being told what to do. And I wondered why.
I don't get that from you.
No, really? No. I know. I hate being told what to do, and I hate being told how much I'm worth. And so that made me a very bad employee. And so as soon as I found my tribe that were entrepreneurial, so I went, that's where I belong. That's why I'm not very good at keeping quiet in a meeting when someone's being rubbish and they happen to be my boss. So, the emperor's naked. I do tend to sort of point things out, which I probably shouldn't. So back in the day, but so for me, it was just to carry on and a little bit of shuffling things around and what have you. But I always wanted to have a flexible working life, always.
Did he work whilst he was ill?
Yeah, right up to the last.
Yeah, it sounds like. Did you tell me he was an accountant?
No, he was in marketing.
Marketing. Okay,
Yeah.
so I must have envisaged that. So for you then, when you were on your own, did you feel like another level of pressure as being the breadwinner, or did it sort of just happen to sort of actually slide? Things just carried on.
Yeah, there was pressure. Obviously, there's no sort of comfy place to land. This was it. So the comfy place to land and the
safety net had sort of gone.
Safety net had gone, definitely. And, with moving forward and my son being so young, that I knew there was a lot of stuff coming that I would need to be ready for his schooling and everything like that. So, and all the expenses involved with all of that and, having holidays and all the things you really want to do. So yeah, there was a massive amount of pressure. I would say to you though, and this is how I am mentally, I don't feel it in my head, but I feel it in my body. So my head is like an absolute lead box. But my body will suddenly go, okay, you need to lie down now, Alex. You're having a moment. And my head's like, no, I'm not. I'm absolutely fine. So that's what my head's like versus my body. My body will tell me when it's time to just have a little moment. Yeah.
And how are women in leadership roles that are in breadwinning roles as well? How are they the same? Are they got that sort of same sort of driven mentality as you're describing? Or
I think they're very, very sensitive to it, very, very aware of the fact that it's up to them, and a lot of people thrive in that. They see it as a challenge, and they see it as something that this is it. But it's really interesting that I've never come across somebody who's actually been overly worried about it. They take it in hand. They've taken it in hand. They're very aware of it, but they take it in hand. And, this is usually women who are more senior that I've spoken to.
Sure. Do they struggle with decisions like taking time out from the pregnancy? And do they struggle with going part-time or maybe reducing their hours?
Well, when you're talking about women now who are pregnant, this is very much the other generation.
Right.
So a lot of I've been coaching a lot of Gen Xers, as it were, but the other generations below are very more fluid with their working times. They've just been brought up differently in a different time where online is the norm, whereas, we invented the online. So we had to do the transition and get used to it, but they're like, it's every day. So I had a conversation with a gorgeous lady, but she had a baby on her knee. And I was like, I would never have done that. Never have done that. Absolutely not the done thing in my world. Yeah. But in her world, totally normal. So it's a whole different vibe, a whole different mindset, a whole different mentality for those of the younger generations, because, I don't know, it just is. I think with my generation, there's more of a strict professionalistic, a little bit more staid, a little bit more structured point of view for the whole thing.
Would you call that more masculine energy?
It could be. I think it's definitely not feminine.
That's like the.
But you get very masculine women.
Yeah, you you can, of course, yeah. I think for me that sort of older style sort of corporate structures was built by men for men. It wasn't built for women.
Yeah, very rigid.
Yeah, and the reason why that women do so well, I think, in leadership is because we can bring that femininity, that soft power to it.
Yes, but I do love my power suits. I miss the 80s. I do. I loved, power dressing with my shoulder pads and,
showing
being
up.
Very masculine. That's a part of myself I really enjoy. And feminine is in my personal life. Masculine, I'm very masculine in my
professional
working life.
Yeah. I can see that. And it's, I think it's about being authentic to yourself at the end of the day, so that...
there are a lot of moving parts internally with most people. And when knowing yourself, everyone's, all the biblical teachings come down to the fact to know thyself. And if you do know yourself, that's when you can be, like you say, live in this authentic place where you're okay with it. And it doesn't matter what other people think about it as long as you're happy with it. And I think that self-expression and being okay with being, yes, watch out, I'm turning around, you might get hit by my shoulder pad, compared to having a baby on my knee while I'm talking business. You wouldn't catch me doing that ever in a month of Sundays. So we're at work. That's how I feel about it. Nothing judgment any other way. It's just I'm different. Yeah. And I was quite shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, she has a baby on her knee and we're talking business. This is quite odd. But that's
horses
fine.
For courses, as they say.
It is. Yeah. It is.
So as we wrap up, is there anything we've talked about so much?
We have, yeah.
So you've mentioned your sort of 5 key things for visibility. Is there anything that you feel that maybe you want to leave the listeners with?
Yes, I do. Because, we can talk about different strategies, which I have mentioned, and being authentic. The underlining thing is you have to be able to take ownership of all of it. Your career is your responsibility. And what I found a lot of people doing is waiting for permission or waiting for someone else to change things culturally in their company or somewhere in order for things to be put right. I say, get your hands dirty with it. It's your job to do that. Don't wait. Don't expect other people to be doing it for you. You have to do it yourself. It's your role. It's your job. Is to serve yourself. Get your career where you want it to be, whether you own a business or whether you're an executive. This is your career. It's your life.
Love that. That's a great way to finish today. And how can people get in contact with you?
I have my LinkedIn profile, which is Alexandra Watson. And also if you want to email me, it's info@alexandrawatson.com.
Perfect. And have you got anything coming up soon that you're excited about?
Yes, but it's for HR. So I'm actually going to be doing in October a launchpad for younger leaders. So watch out for information about that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I've
Pleasure.
Really enjoyed our chat.
Thank you for having me.
And if you want to like and subscribe or let me know in the comments your thoughts on today's show, I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining us today at Accelerating Your Wealth with your host, myself, Rebecca Robertson. I hope you enjoyed the show. Do subscribe and let us know in the comments any of your thoughts.